Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining another episode of the Educational Leadership Podcast. We have another very special guest. Before we introduce our guest, we do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ideal Impact. Ideal Impact's giving away hundreds of millions of dollars to public education in the form of a free gift. So if your district needs unrestricted funds, reach out to Ideal Impact. Okay, we have Superintendent Steeber from Sulphur Springs ISD. Superintendent Steeber, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, and it's always exciting to meet superintendents from different districts because all of them bring a unique perspective. And our intent is to spread the good word around public education because there's a lot of great things happening in public education. And just so our listeners get to know you a little bit, could you share a little bit about your background?
Sure, of course. I am just starting my 29th year of education. And so I began my career as a high school science teacher and taught various science courses, chemistry, biology, and such, and then moved into a principal role and assistant superintendent, and now superintendent. I think maybe what is a little unique about my past experience, and I think it certainly serves me well in my role today, is during my years as a principal, I was able to serve at all levels. So I was able to have experience as a high school principal, a middle school principal, and an elementary principal. And I think it helps me in my role today, just having firsthand experience of what those principals are actually facing in the seats that they sit in.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so you definitely, you've experienced a lot of the different roles there. And just so our listeners get to know the district a little bit, could you share kind of the size of the district, the location, and maybe a little bit about the community?
Sure, we have right at 4,400 students. And we are located in East Texas. So we are on I-30, just travel east of Rockwall, Royce City, Greenville, and we're about 30 minutes outside of Greenville. We have a great community that is very supportive of our school district, very involved in our school district. They they love our school district. I think that's been really a very special part of our community here. Just as far as the different organizations in town, the different companies, churches, all kind of band together to just to support our teachers and kind of fill in where they can, and just things that make our teachers feel valued and loved and appreciated.
Awesome, awesome, very cool. Um, Very interesting. So a lot of superintendents we talk to are passionate about different things. And when I say passionate, it could be something that they are just kind of motivated, or maybe it's a challenge they're facing. Funding comes up a lot. What is it that you're passionate about right now at the end of 2024 in public education?
I think kind of a broad perspective, but I'm very passionate about building capacity in leaders. I think that the key to growing any organization is empowering leaders. And, a leader to me doesn't have to sit in a seat that, has, the power to make, decisions or things like that. Leaders can be, paraprofessionals, teachers, students, but, just building leadership capacity. Which I think, kind of incorporates just a confidence and in how they would deal with a situation, whether it's a student dealing with something that's happening, or a teacher or a principal. But I think my passion and what I try to spend time doing with our principals and our other administrative staff is just growing their capacity as a leader.
Okay, like it. So quick question around that. Let's think about like staff, teachers and staff. Um, I don't, have you read the book Good to Great?
I have, yes. It's been
Oh,
a while, but I have read it, yes.
okay,
Todd Whitaker.
Yeah, who was the I mean, I know that author. It wasn't Todd Whitaker. It was well, as soon as we get off the podcast, I'll know
I
exactly.
will remember. Yes.
Um, well, but one principle was like getting the right people on the bus,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So, and you're talking about developing leaders. So when you think about getting the right people on the bus, I guess there could be like two different philosophies. One could be find people that are experienced and already have the knowledge. Maybe they were a successful teacher somewhere, or successful principal somewhere, or maybe they have not much experience, but they're coachable and they have the right character. Um, do you get into those types of scenarios where you're trying to pick between, which is the best fit for different roles and that sort of thing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think choosing staff is one of the most important things that we do. I think that it's not always about experience. I agree with what you were saying about getting uh, the right people on the bus. I think it's also important to get them in the right seat on the bus.
Mhm.
Sometimes you may have an employee that's not thriving, and it may not be that they're not a good employee. It may just be that they're not in the right seat, and in another seat they might fill that very well. My philosophy on hiring is kind of looking at a balance of competence and confidence. Of course, we're always looking for someone who has high competence and high confidence, but you don't always get that. And so if I have an employee that has you know, high competence, but maybe not a very high confidence. We can usually work with that individual and build some capacity there. Um, versus, if you're looking at a candidate and they have a really high confidence and a really low competence, they can be dangerous in certain situations, right? So it just kind of a measurement of their competence, how it relates to their confidence levels, are really things that we try to look at when we're selecting people to join our team.
Interesting. So, oh, by the way, the author came to me, Jim Collins, where you were
Oh,
talking there.
that's it. That's it. Todd Whitaker has some good books too.
Yeah, I have to check him out. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
well, very cool. So it's interesting if I'm following you correctly. So confidence may come before like if you're having to select between, it may be if you have one or the other,
Yeah.
competence before confidence.
I think, depending on what the situation is, I think a self-awareness of, all right, my competence level is here. And then that my confidence, should kind of match that. Like if I'm learning something new and I come in with the confidence of someone who, maybe has done this for 10 years or 15 years, they may not always have to consult with others and things like that to make decisions because they've learned whatever it is. But if I'm coming into something brand new and I've never done it before, I need to have a self-awareness. And I don't mean not have a confidence in a way that, I can do this. Like we want an employee to say, I can do this. Like I'm the one for
Yeah.
the job, I can do this. But when it comes to making decisions, having the self-awareness that for a period of time, I may need to consult with some others and pull some, different people in on my decisions, just to make sure I'm on the right track. So, just kind of, just really just kind of measuring that confidence and competence and how they would react in certain situations. We like to do kind of some situational interview questions and just see how how the individual would respond and to how they would respond to something they may not know anything about. Because that happens to administrators a lot. We get faced with something and maybe we haven't heard of it or haven't done it before, and how would we respond to coming up with a solution for a problem like that?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And I can see how confidence is a slippery slope because on the one hand, you can reach a level where you're like, hey, I know how to do this, even though they have no experience and no
Right,
knowledge of it. But like, I don't need any help. I got it, right?
right.
Versus like confidence. Hey, I know I can. Maybe a growth mindset paired with confidence.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. And I think we always want people with the confidence of I can do this. But I can do this and I know exactly what to do are, kind of two different two different situations, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Maybe a level of humility in there mixed in.
For sure.
Abs
Sure. And I think too, we try to look for people. Another thing that I think is really important in someone's success in any organization, whether it's education or something else, is their adaptability to change. Especially when you're, if a teacher, for example, you've got, just different groups of kids each year, and one year doesn't look like the next sometimes, and just, being able to adapt to different situations.
Yeah, yeah, it makes yeah, especially this day and age. There's always um
Absolutely.
yeah, and one year it may be this is good, and the next year it's like this is not good.
Sure.
I'm thinking about like social media a little bit. Like, okay, yeah, in some scenarios and um technology, that sort of thing. Well, cool. Let's talk about well, one more question on the leadership piece. What sort of training and development do y'all do to kind of develop leaders within the district?
Um, we start with we meet monthly. All of our leaders. It maybe is different trainings. We do book studies. We I think sometimes some of the best trainings that you might have, or maybe professional development. I don't know if you'd actually consider it a training, but just running different scenarios. I have this happening on my campus. Have you experienced this before? How would you handle it? Things like that, and I think it's kind of looking at and trying to judge, or maybe judge is not the right word, but kind of pull from them what they're needing information about, whether is it a new law, is it getting them the information and the resources that they have, so that they can then take that and make the decisions that they need. It may be a legal training, it may be something related to instruction, it may be related to data and how to take that data and use it to drive instruction, how to train teachers to do that. It may be curriculum. There's just so many aspects or different pieces to an educator's position, but just really trying to be intentional with our professional development, or our book studies, or whatever it may be that we're doing at the time.
That's great. Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of dialogue and communication and I mean that seems like a great approach. I mean, yeah, we talked to different districts that have kind of different ways of developing their team and yeah, just it seems like that's more of like a customized solution where
It is, and I think and it's important that they have a team that promotes collaboration. Just lifting each other up, and knowing that being a principal is a hard job. It's a hard seat to sit in, and having a team around you that just that lifts you up, and when if something's happening, kind of just understanding that that's the nature of the job, and um I guess that would be my thing, just kind of lifting each other up, and opportunities for collaboration and fellowship with each other.
love it. Very good, very good. Okay, last well, almost last question here.
Okay.
Um So the vision for your school district. Let's talk about what's coming up, what's in the future, um, what's on the horizon for your district.
Sure. So we do have kind of three our board goals, which are our district goals, and it's to we want to focus first and foremost on improving student outcomes. Student success, whether that be in academics or extracurricular, um, just improving student outcomes. We have a focus on recruiting and retaining teachers, and also staff compensation, and how can we increase that. And then our third focus is our facilities, and improving our facilities. And so that over in May, our district passed a bond, 157 million, to build some new, two new elementary schools, and then some renovations in some other buildings.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. It's an exciting time here. There's lots of good things happening.
A lot of work that goes into that.
A lot of work, for sure. A lot of work. Yes.
Okay, so the official last question here. If you were to have a superintendent come on the podcast that's been an influence in your life, who would it be?
Oh, goodness. I would probably say Dr. J.J. Villarreal. He is the
Okay.
superintendent, just down the road in Rockwall. I have worked with him before, in different districts, and I think he would be who I would recommend to come on to come on the show. He has certainly been a great influence on me, and I feel like has definitely over the years helped to increase my capacity as a leader.
Awesome. Well, we will have to reach out to him and get him on the podcast. Well, great. Before we close out, any last thoughts for our listeners?
No, I mean, I appreciate the opportunity to brag on our district, and I appreciate you for taking steps to share all of the good things happening in public education. And, I would say, just if I could say something to parents or community, like, it's so important that the teachers in your community feel loved and supported, and that that the community feels like they're contributing value. It's an important job. And I think every parent or teacher would agree with that, that it is an important job. I think that whether a child is in first grade or whether they're in a high school chemistry class, they get to do that one time, right? Like this baby gets to go through first grade one time. And as the teacher, like, that is the memory you create for that child. They get to do it one time, and then it's done. And so you have, as a teacher, you have such an impact. It's such a powerful impact on that child's life. And I think, parents, they drop their kids off to us. They chose us, right? Like 4,400 kids, their parents chose Sulphur Springs ISD, and they've entrusted us with their most precious asset. And I think just kind of keeping that the main thing, is probably the most important thing in education that we can do.
Yes, yeah, and that mindset and just the reflection on your community just shows what kind of leader you are in your district. So appreciate you sharing that.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate that. It's a great place to be, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Superintendent Steeber, for being on the podcast today. Very, very exciting. And I like to say, this is the best place to go to find out about what it's like. What is public education all about, right? We've had roughly 100 episodes with superintendents and a
Wow.
few board members thrown in there.
Sure.
Um, so awesome. Okay, so we will close out. Before we close out, we do want to give one final shout out to our sponsor, Ideal Impact. Ideal Impact's giving away hundreds of millions of dollars to public education in the form of a free gift. So if your district needs higher teacher salaries or whatever your district needs, reach out to Ideal Impact. And for those that have been tuning in, stay tuned for future episodes of the Educational Leadership Podcast.